Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the sunrise safari. And we're actually lucky enough to almost have a sunrise. And at 19 degrees centigrade this morning, which is 66 degrees Fahrenheit, it's positively Arctic temperatures here in the Sabi Sands, which is where we are coming to you from. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Jamie. I have Andrew on camera with me, and boy, do we have an exciting morning lined up for you. So for those viewers who were watching the Djuma Dam camera this morning and spotted the leopard, a big thank you to Kevin and to Valerie, Ravi, and many others for your updates about the leopard that wandered across the dam wall. Scott shot off first thing this morning. He's out on tracking team, completely abandoning all efforts at coffee to go and find that leopard for you, and he's just come upon it now, and Brent is on his way. I have Andrew on camera this morning, and Tebs is on camera with Brent, and we have exciting stuff for you. So without further ado, I'm going to send you over to Brent. Don't forget to send through your questions and comments. Enjoy the leopard.
So a really warm welcome to Safari Live, even though it's a bit of an overcast, chilly morning. My name is Brent Smith. We have Tebs on camera, and we have Tingana having a snooze next to us. So a nice big dominant male leopard. So a big thank you to all the viewers who let us know he was at the Djuma Dam cam, and another big thank you to Scott. While we were getting the vehicles ready, he went out in the tracking vehicle and managed to find him. Hopefully he's not going to be snoozing the whole morning. And there we can see, oh, tired kitty. So just a reminder to any new viewers out there that you're seeing this male leopard at the same time as I am. This is Safari Live, so we are live on the African safari, and we're sitting with probably the most elusive and beautiful of Africa's big five, a large male leopard. And he's snoozing about 5 meters from the vehicle. So what a great way to start the safari with the male leopard. And I know quite a few of you are probably wondering, don't worry, I'm okay after my encounter with the nyala yesterday. Just a little bit bruised and a few little cuts and stuff from the glass, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. Let's focus on what we've got right in front of us. So Scott and Nikki actually heard him calling this morning before we went out on drive at about 4:30, and then he popped up at the Djuma cam. And again, a big thank you to all the viewers who let us know which way he went. There was a little bit of confusion early on, but fortunately we managed to find out which way he went. I'm hoping a nice cool morning. We don't know how far he's walked over the night that he's going to start moving again. Oh, what did you hear? I think it's incredible that even at this time in the morning, the flies are already out. So lots of happy viewers out there. Cindy says, beautiful Tingana. And obviously we're very close to this incredible animal. And Eric in Virginia Beach is wondering, if you actually are on safari with guests, what does it sound like? So while he's doing a snooze, I'll give you a pre-game drive safety talk. Normally you would, before you head out on safari, you would brief everyone, and it's very basic, sort of, please keep seated at all times. Standing up breaks the outline of the vehicle. It shows the bipedal form of man, which is the dominant diurnal predator. So it can cause animals to behave negatively when you're close to them, either causing them to run away or become aggressive, neither of which we want. Also, please don't grab any branches. A lot of them have thorns. Rather try and move out of the way, and watch for hand signals from your guide or tracker. What is he listening to or see? Oh, it's a hyena right here. Come, white tips. The hyena hasn't seen the leopard, he can smell it. There we go. Watch. Come wide onto the leopard. Sometimes big male leopards like this will actually attack a hyena. So the hyena now knows where the leopard is. No, he knows where it is, but he also knows that the leopard is probably not got a kill to defend, so no real reason. Look at this now, the hyena's between us and the leopard. There's a little snarl. So a hyena is probably a lot stronger, or is a lot stronger than a male leopard in a one-on-one battle, but neither of them want to risk an injury without any necessary, and there's no food here. And you can see his ears flat, and I mean, a lot of you guys who have cats at home will recognize some of those very distinct signs that the animal's unhappy. The hyena has now decided that this is not worthwhile. He is double checking around to make sure that they're always behind the aerial. Just double checking to make sure there's no food around here, and it looks like decided that it's not there, and he's heading back off towards the Djuma Dam. So encounters between these predators happen constantly out here in the bush. Obviously we're not there for all of them, and obviously when there's food or meat and stuff, the encounters can vary very differently, and lion and with different predators. So if that had been a lion walking up here, Mr. Tingana would be heading off at a rate of knots. Leopard and hyena have a very interesting sort of dynamic between them. Big male leopards like this will quite often actually attack single hyenas if they're defending meat or become particularly harassed by the hyena. But as soon as the hyena numbers get to 2, the leopard will definitely move off. A very, very spotty welcome to Wendy from New York as we sit with Tingana. Wendy would like to know, how far is he from the Djuma Dam Cam? He's just looking back there. The hyena's not there anymore. I'm just double checking. But he's probably about 1 kilometer now to the east of the dam. So if you're sitting, pretend we were sitting underneath the camera, looking towards the waterhole, he is to the right, and directly from the dam to the northeast. So if you look directly across the dam from the camera, that is north, and to the right is east, more or less, not exactly, and to the left is west. I was hoping that the hyena might inspire some movement, but it looks like he's happy to snooze for a bit longer. So a wonderful welcome to Marissa from Texas. Marissa would like to know, is Tingana in the middle of Mvula's territory? Well, Marissa, I think we can quite safely say that this is now Tingana's territory, no longer Mvula's territory. But yes, it is what is traditionally considered to be part of the core area of Mvula's territory. But over the last 4 or 5 months, Mvula has been pushed further and further to the east. Tingana now often ventures into Buffalo's Hook and Torchwood, and Mvula has been pushed even further to the east, and he is getting quite old now, and you can see, I saw some pictures posted by Nkoro. He is looking like he is losing quite a bit of condition. And as sad as that is for a lot of you who like the leopard mvula, that is natural behavior, and it is bound to happen. He was 12 or 13 years old, and mvula is not a particularly big leopard. He was born in 2005, so 11 years old. And he's not a particularly big leopard. Physically quite a bit smaller than Tingana, and Tingana, he's a really impressive specimen, is smaller than the Anderson male. And one of the reasons Tingana has pushed into this, what is traditionally mvula's territory, is because he's been pushed by the monster Anderson male. So obviously out here in the African bush, specifically with leopards and male leopards, size is important. So while Tingana catches the snooze, let's go from some spots to stripes with Jamie.
I quite like that comparison from spots to stripes. We have a herd of zebra that's just wandered onto Twin Downs from across our southern boundary. I've headed here to see if there's any signs of lions crossing, but instead we got a zebra crossing. Ha ha. Oh dear. Now, I know that you saw that wonderful sighting of the wild dogs yesterday with the zebra. And there's a couple of very pregnant females there that have now disappeared behind the tree line. But there is nothing much more picturesque than a zebra in the morning light. Or a tree in this case. Trees in the morning light are also very nice. Let's try and get you a view of the animal. Morning zebbies. They're on a mission this morning. Hello boys. Now yesterday, that incredible sighting that you had with Scott, for those of you who missed out on the sunset safari, Scott had the wild dogs paying very close attention to a zebra herd with two little foals. And I'm pretty sure this is a different zebra herd. I haven't seen any youngsters coming through, although they are imminent. There's the stallion, keeping a close watch, always moving around at the back of the group to help to keep them safe. And if that lady wanders in... Oh, no, wait, actually, that looks like two stallions. Never mind. I was going to give you a nice comparison between male and female, but we've got two males there with their thin stripe underneath the tail. You can see what I mean about how picturesque they can be in the morning light. Tail's already going furiously to sweep away the flies. I'm actually quite surprised that the flies are out this early. It's a bit chilly for them. They're going to wander off down the road, accompanied as always by that little black bird that is the fork-tailed drongo. And I said that there's not much more picturesque than zebras in the morning light. There is something that is more picturesque, and that is a male leopard. I'm going to send you back across to Tingana.
So, as we can see, Tingana is doing what big cats do best, and it's quite often sleep. And leopards will sleep for an average of between 16 and 18 hours a day, sometimes a bit longer. Obviously, sometimes a bit shorter, but if we average it out. So we don't know how far he's walked. As I said, he could have come from miles away. Good morning to Julia from Houston, who's listening to all the bird calls around us at the moment. I'm going to just keep quiet for a second so everyone can hear them. So the most prominent one we can hear is that very repetitive down towards the Mawasi drainage line, sort of directly behind the leopard. And that is sounds like one of the canaries, making quite a lot of noise. And we've got some starlings we can hear, Birchall starling. I heard some parrots, brown-headed parrots squawking in the distance, and we could also hear a white-browed scrub robin and a crested francolin. Ooh, is one of my favorites. Very beautiful chortling sound is a black-crowned chagra. Definitely one of the prettiest calls in the bush. Puffback shrike in the distance. So it's been really fascinating since I started in terms of cats and territories, and we've had two major sort of upheavals, one with the lion, one with the leopard, and obviously the Birmingham boys ousting the Matimba males, which was a lot more sort of visible and we could hear it a lot more, that whole interaction. And the Matimbas are now stationed on the Sand River to the south of us, and the Birminghams are well set in the northern Sabi Sands. The other, which is a little bit more subtle, was the pushing of Mvula by Tingana, and they were seen together a couple of times by the Juma guides. And quite often with male leopards, it's less about fighting and more about posturing. They'll be very close to each other, sometimes 5 meters, and a lot of growling, snarling, and calling and scent marking while walking opposite each other. And with a lot of these animals, they know that a fight could prove to become a major injury. So a lot of posturing is sort of better than actually physically fighting. Not to say that they don't, but in my experience, what I've seen is that the female leopards seem far quicker to fight for territory than male leopards, and they do get that incredible sort of almost foaming at the mouth when they encounter an invader or another member of the same sex in their territory. And we saw that very clearly with Shadow and Karula when they came close to each other, and lots of sort of salivating, and it almost looks like they're foaming at the mouth. And there we go. You can see that lovely white underbelly, slightly softer than the rest of the fur, and even though that is probably the fluffiest part of a leopard, the hair is still quite coarse. There we go. Have a look at those paws. Carolyn in Chicago. And I was wondering how big his paws are. So that's the back paw. And that's quite a bit smaller than the front paw. If we look at the front paws, we can't see the bottom. But you can see they're a lot wider and bigger. Obviously, there's a couple of reasons for that. There's more bulk in the front of a leopard, carrying his weight. And also, that's the business end. So when it comes to grabbing something or fighting. So we'll be back discussing Tingana's paws, but off to another spotted animal with Jamie.
Hey, look who we've got here. And it's calling. Come on, you can do it. You can do a nice loud one for us. I love that sound. Actually almost sounds like a cow, the way this one's calling. So these low contact calls sound quiet to us, but to hyenas, they'll be able to hear that a couple of kilometers away. I'm waiting to see if this one does the loudest call it can. I know that you've just had a sighting with Tingana and another hyena that wandered through and happened to encounter him, and Tingana paid him very little attention or just gave him a bit of a snarl. And I've seen hyena and Tingana interact before. And Brian, you were wondering if a hyena is really stronger than a male leopard, and yes, for the most part. Maybe a small sub-adult hyena or a small male might not be, but even a hyena of this size is close to Tingana's size and weight, although I think it would be a fairly interesting fight. Tingana is one of the biggest male leopards out here. But for the most part, these carnivores tend to follow quite a strict hierarchy, and within that, the leopards seem to automatically, not necessarily all the time, but quite often, will assume a slightly subservient role to avoid being injured. It just takes one bite of those hyenas to break or damage a paw or a leg, which in turn compromises that leopard. What's up, hyena? You're trying to call for the rest of your clan? Not getting any answers that I can hear. Now, we've seen and heard of leopards fighting hyenas before. I know that you had a sighting with Kunuma where he tried to chase a hyena away and then very quickly thought twice. Well, Kunuma's not fully grown. And I've even heard of stories of female leopards shooting down, grabbing their kill away from hyenas and then dashing back up a tree. So although they won't necessarily fight one-on-one, leopards are a little bit faster, a bit more agile. So it's difficult to necessarily say a hyena beats a leopard every time. Lois, I don't know. I don't think it's pretty. Wait, back. Oh, they're so fast. And Lois, of course, is referring to one of the hyenas at the den. And Lucy, just while we're shooting around after this hyena, you wanted to know about the animal in the background. Andrew's doing a fantastic job, and there's a tree in my way. Where did you go? That was quick. Lucy, it was an impala. And Lois, I don't think it was pretty. Jeepers, that hyena disappeared fast. Where did it go? The reason I suspect that it's not pretty is just based on size. It looks smaller than pretty. I could stand corrected on that. It's quite tricky to tell straight away which hyena you're looking at. Unfortunately, we are no longer looking at it. Where did it go? That was fast. Dashed down into this drainage line somewhere, I think. Wonder if it's not on its way back to see if it can't find the rest of the clan. That, I suspect, is a occupied warthog burrow. There's a whole network of roads here I didn't even realize existed. How fascinating. I think this is an old hyena den. Wow. I've never been here before. This has been a fascinating experience. Look at that. In fact, I would not be surprised at all if that's not occupied. I don't think it's occupied by hyenas, though. I can't see any sign of our hyena friend coming through.
I saw some flies flying out.
Saw some flies around. Right, so what Andrew's pointing out is that there's flies around the entrance to the burrow. That usually means, well done, Andrew, good spotting. That usually means that a burrow is occupied because the flies are attracted by the various parasites and skin cells and so on of an animal. Look, we can see right inside. How cool is that? That's fascinating. Now, I'm pretty sure looking at those flies, they've got a pale color to them. There is one species of fly that is unique. Hi. Go away, bird, wherever you are. There's one species of fly that is unique to aardvark burrows. They're attracted only to aardvark burrows, and I think that's what we're looking at here. I think it is an old hyena den that's now been occupied again in a turn of affairs by an aardvark. Just judging by, this is definitely occupied. It's got freshly scraped soil around it. Good morning. Where are you? Oh, there he goes. Go away, bird shouting. Oh, wow. That's been really interesting. Raisa, you wanted to know if there's any hyena tracks on the road? There would be. I'll double check and see when we go back out again. I still want to... Oh, Ellie tracks. Sorry, yes, you wanted to know if those were Ellie tracks. Well done. Well done, Raisa. Yes, there's a big bull elephant that walked down Gowrie Main at some point last night. Well, that was an interesting little excursion. I've certainly learned a bit more about a network of roads I had no idea was here. I'm going to send you back over to Brent now as I negotiate my way out. Have a wonderful time.
So we're still with the big boy, and you can see he's now gone even more flat than he was. And we're discussing his paws and the size of his paws. So the front paws on most animals are much bigger. Obviously, more weight around the shoulders and the head, so it's got to carry a bit more weight. Also, that's sort of the business end when it comes to hunting and fighting. Leopards will use their back claws as well, but that's more for climbing and occasionally in fighting if they get on top of another leopard or on top of a possible prey. But a big male leopard's track, if we have a look, my hand here is probably around that sort of size compared to a male lion, which would be almost the same size as my hand. So a male leopard, sort of the size of the palm of my hand, where there's a male lion, almost the whole size of my hand. So Mr. Tingana not doing too much at all, and what we will hope is that he does get moving. If he doesn't, I'm just going to sit here till Aubrey or Tax or one of the other game drives come, and they can sit with him while he's sleeping. We might go have a look what else we can find, and then come back if he starts moving. Very good morning to Sharon, and thanks, Sharon in Pittsburgh, and thanks very much, Sharon. It's great to be back, and Vivian and I are also quite glad we didn't come off too badly with that very interesting encounter yesterday. And Sharon would like to know, do all big cats have yellow eyes? Have I ever seen any variations? Well, Sharon, with leopards I've seen green eyes. It's actually not that uncommon in leopards. And different shades of yellow and gold, but leopards sometimes do have green eyes. When lion and leopard cubs are young, very young, they have blue eyes, and their eyes change as they get older. So it looks like he's relatively well fed, and I'm not sure when the last time he was seen. So it looks, there's a little bit of blood around his neck. It could be from feeding. It's more than likely, I can see where we're talking about, it's about there. For me, that looks like he's scratched a tick, and it's popped. Yeah, so there we go. You see it's slight pinkish tinge. You can actually see exactly where the tick was. And what happened is he scratched that tick with his back leg. Probably one of those big fat grey ones, and it's popped during the scratching, and that's what spread that blood around his neck there. So even though a leopard looks like a very sort of parasite-free and clean animal, they are covered in little ectoparasites, ticks and fleas, and as well as some other nastier ones, flukes and whatnot. You can see those wonderful rosettes.
Good morning, mobile station.
Oh, there we go. There's Tax. Morning, Tax. We've got Tingana on Central Road, just to the east of the concrete crossing or giraffe crossing.
Okay. Copy that. Thanks very much. I'm very interested for that. How many more are there?
Just me, make your way.
Okay, copy that. Thanks.
So, looks like he's going to continue snoozing. So we'll wait for Tax to get here. Oh, look at that. His little tongue sticking out there while he snoozes. And have a look at the nose there. So even though from a distance it looks quite pink, but quite black, it is a little bit pink. And sometimes the color of the nose is used to age animals. And it's sometimes not the most reliable indicator, because some adults still have pink noses. As you can see here, he's got quite a pink nose. And then down to you can see there's a tick on his bottom jaw there, and there's a few down to the right below his mouth. Looks like an extra spot almost, sort of directly opposite the fly. That little fly species there is the bane of our lives here, and it is called a stable fly. Very common around livestock as well, but it's the little biting fly that bites us as well as the wild animals we view, and that's what causes the tatty ears and quite some discomfort, especially in the heat. Little stable flies. They look very similar to a house fly. They are a bit smaller, and obviously they feed on blood. Here we go. We can see the slightly tatty ears there from the flies. Oh, look at that stable fly. Has gone right into where he's popped that tick. You can see there, so where he's popped that tick, there's a stable fly actually feeding off the blood there. There could be an open wound. Are we on full zoom, Percy?
Yeah.
So there we go. You can see that little fly coming out there feeding on the blood. So obviously we're all very interested in the lineage of our leopards around here, and Tom and Patsy would like to know, we know sort of Mvula's lineage a little bit, and his offspring, so we must be very careful. Oh, sorry, misheard there. Tom would like to know whether Tingana is an offspring of Mvula. He's not at all. Mvula comes from the southern Sabi Sands, around the Sand River and Sabi River, and he moved up into this area a few years ago. Tingana, no one's sure where he came from. Tingana means the shy one. He's not so shy anymore. And so he just arrived in northern Sabi Sands a few years ago. My guess, and this is pure speculation, is that he comes from a property called Ottawa, which Singita Traverse, but it's a very big property sort of to the west of sort of Elephant Plains, Arathusa, Sibambili, that area, and it's got very, very few roads, and it is quite a thick property inundated with drainage lines, so there are quite a few unrelaxed leopards in that area. I used to drive around there a few years ago, so sometimes when you get unrelaxed leopards, he could have possibly come from there, or he could have come from the Kruger. So when he first arrived in this area, he was not that habituated to vehicles. As you can see, that is a completely different story now. So if you do drive respectfully and calmly around these animals, as you can see, they become very relaxed in our presence. I'm sure the leopards have been enjoying the cool weather over the last few days. Sharon Stewart is wondering what Tingana's distinguishing feature is. If we have a look on the top set of whiskers there, if we go in, you can see there above that sort of last line of whiskers, there's what we call a spot pattern. I remember correctly, you can see there's 4 spots there, 2 almost together and 2 off to the left. If I remember correctly, he's a 5'4", so what side are we on now? Yeah, 5 on the right, 4 on the left. That's the main way to distinguish leopards, especially if you're not sure who they are. There we go. Hyena's back, well spotted tabs. It's a different hyena. Different hyena. It's making some noise. There we go. Look, this one looks a bit more serious about chasing him. And he's jogging off behind us. I'm just going to turn. Hello, Howard. What are you up to? Chasing away our leopard. Now, can you still see the leopard, Tibbs? I've lost visual. Yeah, trouble. Naughty, naughty. So, coming to check if there's any food around. Has he landed up? Oh, there he is. Okay, we've still got the leopard. You heard me call the hyena Howard, and that's just a little joke. I've got a cardboard cutout of a hyena that we used on a film shoot. It's life size, so he's been nicknamed Howard. So all hyenas are Howard. There's Tax. So we're going to hang around here a bit because that hyena's here, causing a little bit of problems. So we saw a bit of that camouflage that a leopard is able to show, even lying right out sort of in the open. I'm just going to have a quick chat with Tebs and Fanwell just to let them know what's going on. The Mnisi just chased him. Yeah. How you guys? Oh, there we go. Okay, so at least the hyena's prompted some movement and he's no longer a flat cat. So we were just discussing his distinguishing features. And for me, it's that big, thick neck. He's quite a pale leopard. There we go. Look at that. So remember we saw that little spot of blood on his neck, and we saw him scratching there. That is, I'm almost 100% certain about how he got that blood on his neck, popping ticks by scratching. But we have very exciting fact here. We've got a new viewer called Tiara who lives in New York. And Kiara, sorry, not Tiara. And she's a new viewer, and she lives in New York, and she asked how to get her question through, and well, Kiara now knows, and thanks to all the viewers who let her know how to send her questions through to us. Just a reminder for those of you who don't know, you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send us an email on questions@wildearth.tv. But Kiara's question is, how fast can a hyena run? So a hyena is built for stamina rather than speed. They still run faster than we can. So they can probably get up to about 60 kilometers an hour, but the thing is they can maintain those speeds. Well, probably not 60 for too long, but they can maintain a speed of around 35, 40 kilometers an hour for up to sort of 5-6 kilometers. So they are incredibly well designed with that sloping back, designed for stamina rather than outright speed, and that huge strength in their upper body with that thick neck and well-developed sort of front leg muscles and shoulder muscles. And again, thanks to everyone for making Kiara warm welcomed here on Safari Live, and hopefully you'll keep asking questions. So the hyena seems to have moved away. Can't see it anymore, but that's the second hyena that's visited him this morning, and you saw how different the behavior between the two different hyenas was. How the one sort of stayed away when he growled and sort of ran off, and the other one obviously maybe a more dominant female, was far more aggressive in her approach and even came up calling, and that moved, actually forced him to move. He didn't move very far, probably about 15 meters. But amazing how there's different characters in the different animals, and different animals will react differently when they come across each other. Very warm welcome to one of our regulars, Miss Jin in Dallas, Texas. Miss Jin would like to know whether Mvula would put up a fight against Tingana or just move away. Well, I would say the fight's over, Miss Jin. Tingana has pretty much usurped Mvula from his territory, and Mvula probably will not want to get into a physical battle with Tingana. He's younger, he's bigger, and there's a strong possibility that he would take a serious beating from this leopard. So he has moved off rather. Obviously, we don't know what's happening further to the east of us. I know there are other male leopards that side. I'm going to ask Tax. Maybe Tax knows. He can travel further distances than I can. Are there other male leopards in Coral side? Just in Mvula at the moment. Okay. Thanks, Taxi. So there we go. At the moment, to the east, Mvula's got a little niche. There's no other male leopards currently in that area. There is one of, I know some of the viewers will know of him, one of Karula's offspring, Shavambalan, who is but further to the east in Kruger. So at the moment, Mvula seems to have found a spot, but obviously as male leopards get older, their territories shrink as the younger males push in, and it gets to a stage once there's no sort of gap in the territories where they can hide. Oh, there comes a yawn. Oh, not the biggest yawn. Well, there comes a stage where these once dominant male leopards become nomadic, and they basically try to sneak between the different male leopards, avoiding confrontation and just trying to survive. And it becomes quite a sad state to see. I mean, you see once magnificent male leopards looking quite mangy and not well at all. And I've seen them eating lion feces to survive. And unfortunately, as with most of the predators out here in the African bush, there's no real dignified end to life. You're normally scragged by something else and ripped apart. There we go. Up on the move as the first rays of the sun break through. And look at that. He's probably no less than 4 feet from me now. Or at least he's scent marking in that direction and not towards us. Isn't that beautiful? Watching Tebs intently there. So, Love 3 Dogs from Texas, who's become a regular viewer, said, why was Tingana calling like he was this morning? We know females call when they have cubs or when they are in estrus. I'm just going to let Taxi go ahead of us for a second. We've had such a good viewing, and we will just be leapfrogging between us to the front spot. So while we do that, just answer the question quickly. So Tingana and females will call. Females don't only call for those 2 reasons that you mentioned there. They also call for a territory. Most vocalizations that you hear from lions or leopards are not actually to call each other or whatnot. It's to discern territory. So him walking around going is to say all the other male leopards, hey, watch out, this is my spot now, and I'll give you a hiding if you come here. And so that's why, and the female leopards call like that regularly as well, to defend their territory or to make it known that this is their territory. You can see I'm walking to the left of Tax's vehicle, off on patrol. Now this is a very similar route to what Mvula used to do regularly. And I remember just before I went on leave was the first time I actually tracked Tingana doing this whole route. And basically straight down Hippo Pools to Buffels Hook Dam, Nyala Road North, and then Central Road to the dam, and working in both directions. So really fascinating. We have had Tingana has been seen crossing north into Buffels Hook, so further north of here. So, I mean, this whole northern section, we know there's that unrelaxed male leopard that is nicknamed Gajima by the guys in Buffels Hook. Gajima means the one who runs, and he doesn't like cars. I've only seen him once with Andrew, and he disappeared very quickly. You can see one of the distinguishing features about an adult male leopard is that dew lap. Oh, there we go. Scent marking with preorbital glands, and then a little spray of urine. That's quite a big one. And for those of you who are new, might not know, leopard urine has a really distinct smell. And for those of you who are avid movie goers, you go to the cinema at home, I'm quite sure as you prepare to book your movie, you like to go get some popcorn, and some of you might like buttered popcorn. And leopard urine smells almost exactly like buttered popcorn, so quite an interesting one, and you can actually smell where they've been. Tingana is quite a tall male leopard. And just listening to Jamie there quickly, she's giving an update on the radio. And so as I was saying, so quite a tall male leopard, probably weighs around 80 kilograms, which is sort of, well, I think if my maths is correct, around 160, no, but more than that, 180 pounds or so. Text, go ahead again. So quite often what we do is we'll leapfrog between, giving everyone a chance to go in front to get a good view of the leopard. So there's an update from Jamie on the radio. She's tracking the wild dogs at the moment. It looks like they've crossed north into Buffels Hook. Yeah, so there's a little sneaky maneuver I'm going to be able to move. Not quite yet, but the good thing about spending an incredible amount of time out in safari areas, you get to learn a few little shortcuts. So where there's a gap between the bush, where we can sort of zoom around and get up in front of the leopard. So as soon as that opportunity comes along, I shall definitely do that. Here we go. Hoping he doesn't walk too far today. He is able to walk quite a big distance. Leopards, if they wanted to, could probably walk 15, 20 kilometers in a day, in a night. They don't normally walk that far, normally sort of, at the top end 5 or 6, but they are able to walk incredible distances. Terry in New York would like to know how far is Tingana from the Juma Lodges. So where he was lying, probably about a kilometer. He's probably now about a kilometer and a half from the lodges. nice that he's on the move. So fortunately, you guys can still see me, but there seems to be a little gremlin in the normal internet, which is different from our streaming internet. And unfortunately, so we're not going to be able to receive your questions at the moment. But don't worry, we have tech people on it already. Oh, he's seen something. He's off on the hunt. Just changed his behavior there slightly. You might have heard or seen something just off to the bush over here. So I'm going to sneak past him. See, he's down in a crouching position. Look how flat he's getting to the ground. There's an nyala just behind him. Go up, Tibbs. There we go, you can just see the nyala. Okay, we're not going to move now. We're going to sit tight right here. Hopefully this nyala doesn't jump into the car. There's baby nyala there as well. Okay, so it's probably about 20 meters. Normally a leopard prefers to charge from about 5 meters. But it all depends on the situation. Now, an adult male leopard like this, he top ends at about 24 meters per second. So incredible speed over a short distance. They're not designed for long distance running. They're definitely short distance sprinters. Quite a big group of nyala. So obviously, in some ways, that gives them a better chance. In other ways, it's more eyes to spot him. Is you wondering what that click is? I'm getting my camera out just in case. Making sure all the settings and the light are right. Oh, hyena calling in the distance. So the nyala actually, look there, seem to be feeding almost towards us. See them there? So there he is, just waiting patiently. I think just come out a little bit, Tibbs, just in case he shoots, yeah. So the reason we're going to stay wide here is just in case he shoots off at a high speed, only 24 meters a second. Imagine trying to keep up with that with a camera. Thankfully, we've got awesome cameramen like Tibbs, VM, Andrew, and Brian, and Jean-Ray. So they are more than up to the task. Oh, look at that. Now, what we must remember, we can see things very easily from our height. So you must imagine now dropping down sort of more than a meter. So he is battling to see them now. That's why he's lifting his head up like that. He's probably just picking up little bits of movement through the bush. So then nyala are from there all the way through to there. See, it almost looks like he's lost visual of them. Ah, there we go, he spotted them again. So there are some sub-adults and some quite young ones in there. There we go, he spotted spotted the young one. So again, guys, apologies. Our normal internet's down, so we're not receiving any questions at the moment. But isn't this absolutely exciting? We've got the dominant male leopard, Tingana, probably about 30 meters or so away from a group of the nyala. Most of the nyala just on the other side of that bush there. A little bit far for him to charge at the moment, but stranger things have happened. Quite a nice piece of bush for him to hunt. There's some thickets, good cover. There he goes. Now, see how he's flattened his ears and put his head lower. He's trying to make sure his distinct feline outline isn't visible. And that's years and years of evolution coming into play there. See how his ears are still scanning around, making sure that there's no hyenas coming. So as I was saying, it's still a bit too far. He's going to have to get at least another 10 meters or so closer. Leopard's preferred sort of distance for making that charge is about 5 meters, but they will go from about 10 meters if the conditions are correct. Look at those shoulders. Look at those muscles. And now, when a leopard's hunting like this, if you watch very carefully, his back foot will go exactly where his front foot is. So, has been to negate any breaking branches or noises. And they're very patient stalkers. Oh, the nyala's coming closer. This one, nyala's coming closer. So the nyala's probably within 10 meters. She's still coming closer. She's moving through this thicket here. Look how he's getting ready. He's bunching up. He's got his head down. That sort of latent energy of all those muscles. Oh, it's just on the edge of the range now. This is incredibly exciting, guys. Now, the rest of the nyala are going to come through. He might wait for one of the smaller ones. There's a baby coming through. There's one more nyala. So there we go, there's the baby. And there's another one even a little bit closer. It's just right on the edge of that range. You can see how well that camouflage is working. So as I said, it's just he'd like to be a meter or two closer, sort of his ideal charging range. And there's still a few more nyala coming. See how flat he is against the ground. So I think there's still another 2 or 3 behind those 2 on the left. I mean, he's like almost like a rock or a log. He has not moved an inch. You can barely see him breathing. I almost thought he was going to go while that one stopped to clean itself. They're just too far. This is incredibly exciting. I think there's only one nyala left behind. I can't really see. Has he missed his chance? It was just too far. He might try come up from behind them. So they've just walked in the front of Tax's vehicle across here. Let's just see what he gets up to. You can see how his body posture's changed. They've crossed the road now. And as I said, it's just probably a meter or two too far. It's not to say he hasn't finished stalking them. He is quite full as well, so not desperate for a meal, but you must remember predators are opportunists. I think those nyala have put enough distance between him and them now. If we look at it, literally they were walking through that section there. If they had been there, sort of a meter or two closer, or he had been at the base of that tree, I think it'd be in a very different story. It's just that little bit too far. And you must remember, an animal like a leopard expends a huge amount of energy in that charge. So sometimes it's worth not charging. It's just that little bit too far. You can see he's got quite a nice belly on him, so not too hungry. But he is, the nyala is still just on the other side of Tax. It looks like he is going after them again. There's a nyala there, if you come up. There. Disappearing. Still a few there. I can't see where he is at the moment, but we're not going to move the vehicle just now, just yet. So isn't this exciting? So it's been wall-to-wall excitement since I got back. Spitting cobras in the kitchen, nyalas on my lap, and now a male leopard stalking him. I think he's just in front of Tax's vehicle. Trying to see what's going on. You see him, Teddy? The nyala moved off. And there's quite a few of them there. As we saw, probably about 10. And they're almost opposite us now, so they're moving sort of parallel to where we are. I can't see where Mr. Tingana is. Is he going to carry on his patrol? Is he going to start stalking these nyala? There's quite a few jokes now coming from Final Control. Did I tell Tingana to be careful because nyala are dangerous? No, I didn't. But yes, they are. They do have very sharp hooves. My ribs and head can attest to that. There he is. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes. nyala are running back towards him. Something spooked them. So you can see the nyala just to the left of screen, and there's Tingana just behind that tree. There he goes. There's the baby right there. Isn't this incredibly exciting? Again, it's about a little bit too far. He needs another 5 meters, would be my guess, before it's sort of optimum charging zone. So they're about, I'd say, 12 to 15 meters away, and he wants to be in that under 10 meter radius. Well, there does look to be a termite mound just to the right of those nyala, in between him and them, so that could be a really good aid. And you can see how camouflaged he is, and he's been spotted, or they're barking something else. Is there another leopard here? It's possible. They're not looking at him while they're barking, and he's not sure. There we go. But I'm not sure whether they were barking at him. They weren't looking at him. But something else is going on. Oh, and off they go. Nyala disappearing in every direction. White fluffy tails bound. But wasn't that exciting? He got so close. Where's my button? That was incredibly exciting, and one must remember that with the big cats, lions and leopards, they only have a sort of a 10-12% success rate in every stalk and hunt that they have. Looks like he's off on patrol again. So there's a possibility the nyala caught a whiff of him on the wind that would have caused them to alarm call as well. And as he's walking there, you can see how much bigger his front paws are to the back paws. You can see he's not so worried about where he puts his feet now. But when he was stalking, literally he'll put his back paw exactly where his front paw was. Sorry, just getting a quick picture for everyone at Djuma. Really nice shot with the Djuma vehicle behind a big male leopard. So guys, just to remind you, that was 100% live. We were hunting with a male leopard live, and it was amazing to be able to bring that to you wherever you might have been in the world. So really exciting stuff. So we've been joined by another vehicle, not sure who it is. I had my radio on. Margaret on Twitter says, what an adrenaline rush, he's getting too old for this stuff. Now, just to let you know, so Nikki and Kirsty are in final control. The normal internet is down, so Kirsty's actually standing outside with her cellular device, getting updates on Twitter and then feeding them through to Nikki. So we've got an incredible team. trying to phone signal so we can get some of your questions through. Morning. Hey, Andrew. How are you doing? Thanks. It's difficult to say whether he caught something last night. He might have caught something small, but his belly does look like he has fed in the last few days. He's changed direction again. Just gonna stand by him. So, Margaret, yes, you can breathe now. You can relax. It's not nearly as high intensity as it was. And Anna Marie says that was so cool, even though he didn't catch anything. Obviously, I wasn't really watching Tingana. I was watching where those nyala were running, just in case another one ambushed me.
Yeah, it's very chill. Relax. It's cool.
I think one nyala in my lap is enough for a year. Jamie's still out there searching for those wild dogs, but unfortunately so far she's only found a hornbill. So we're going to stay with Tingana for now. Okay, this should be one of my sneaky spots. We'll just wait for him to get past us. Should hopefully be able to get up ahead of him. Oh. Smell the buttered popcorn. Oh. Rogue says, spoiler alert, and James Richard said, is it possible that those nyala were barking at the hyena? Very unlikely, don't normally bark at hyena. They're generally only the cats, and they don't waste time barking at wild dog because they just got to get out of the way. So I'm just going to try and get a little bit up ahead of him. Hold on there, Ted's even nearly there. Bump and rump. Should get nicely ahead of him here, taking the opportunities the open ground on the road has given us. Got up ahead of him. So, Kiara, our new viewers asked another question. Thanks for keeping the questions coming, Kiara. Kiara would like to know, how do you tell the difference between a leopard, a male and female, without getting too close? It's the body size, generally. Kiara, if you can't see the obvious extra appendages from the behind, the males are quite a lot bigger and heavier. So a male leopard like this will weigh around 80 kilograms, where there's a female like Karula, which is our dominant female, probably weighs around 35, 40 kilograms, so 50% the size of a big male. So I'm hoping he walks straight up towards us. There we go. There he comes. So, Brian Johansson would like to know, do the big cats cough up fur balls like house cats? Brian, they do. So what we've done is we've moved down to the bottom of the hill. So apologize about the black screen. The signal can be a bit iffy here if we're moving. So that's why I've stopped. And he's probably going to walk around the corner in the next few seconds and hopefully walk either right next to us over here or right around here, depending on which way he goes. Unfortunately, if he goes up to the right here, that is a really, really bad signal area. So hopefully he decides to carry on straight, because this area is not really good for signal. So, as I was saying, Brian, they do cough up fur balls. Can you see him yet, Teds?
No.
Did he change his direction? Let's have a look with the binos. He might have stopped to listen. So Tax and I have sped around here to wait for him to walk past us. And it seems like he's... here we go. There he is. Here he comes. Just see movement through the bush. And one, there he is. About to pop around. There he comes. So guys, remember, this is live. You are following an African male leopard with Safari Live. You're seeing this at the same time we are. And remember, we're also able to answer any of your questions you might have about leopards and other animals in the bush. You can do that by sending us an email on questions at wildearth.tv. But at the moment, we're having a bit of internet issues, so only on Twitter. And you just use the hashtag Safari Live, and that should hopefully get through to us, and we can help explain any conundrums you might be wondering about leopards or the African bush. Oh, isn't that magnificent? So Kiara was wondering, another way to tell a male leopard, as you look under his throat, you can see that loose skin, which we refer to as a dewlap. It's another very distinguishing feature of male leopard as opposed to a female. So those who are new wondering what that clickety click is, sorry, that's just my camera. I'm getting a few shots. It's such a beautiful scene. And remember, you guys can take screenshots and don't forget to share them with us. You can put them on our Facebook page, which is Safari Live, or just use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter so we can have a look at all your wonderful screenshots. Of course, he's going to go off the road, right where we were hoping he was going to sneak right past us. So, as you can see, this is live. We can't plan what he's going to do. We've just got to try our best to be in the right positions at the right time. Maybe he's heard something or smelt something he wants to go have a look at there. Well, good morning, Nisa from Wisconsin. And Nisa is saying she's just so impressed how the trucks don't seem to bother this leopard. Well, these leopards are very habituated. He actually didn't grow up with vehicles as a small cub, but he has come to find vehicles in his older age. And the guides here are all very experienced. We drive very carefully as to minimize our effect. And you can see the nyala and the leopard take no notice of the vehicles. You might have heard something, and you see he's looking off into the distance there. You can just make his rosettes out behind that stump there.
And what is doing the elephant?
Yeah, it's elephant.
So, look at that for camouflage. I'll spot him for you now. I think he's gone flat cat, so we actually look under the log. That dark log. Just make out a rosette underneath there. See, looks like he might have laid down. Oh, and up again. There he is there. Looking and listening. Ah, beautiful animal. Can't see what he's looking at. I think he's actually listening more than looking. Maybe smelling a little bit as well. I don't see that quick, sharp movement there. I think he's hearing things rather than seeing things. See how he quickly moves his head. And how his sound comes from a slightly different direction. there's going to be a bit of a shuffle. I just want to take my big jacket off. It's warming up. Just listening intently. Some of those nyala did run off in this area. I wouldn't recommend hunting a really disturbed nyala. They're probably on high alert at the moment. There we go, on the move again. Unfortunately, if he heads where he's going now, we might struggle a little bit with signal. He's heading down towards a very steep drainage system. Well, good news. Kirsty's allowed back inside. The internet seems to have come back on. Although I think Kirsty should probably just stay outside in general. Oh, he's coming back this way now. He's heard something. Taxi's heading back down towards you.
Which way is that?
Sorry, go again.
You don't move again.
He's stopped now, but he is heading down towards the Shkova.
Okay.
Ginny says he hopes he doesn't smell nyala on me. Me too, Ginny. I think I've got most of the nyala smell off me. Look at that. He's definitely heard something, I think, on the other side of that little drainage system. I'm trying to just see if I can hear anything. I can't at the moment. Becky Hart in New Hampshire. I'm wondering if this isn't Rebecca Hart. Who actually used to be a camera woman on WildEarth. If it is, Becky, let us know. But Becky would like to know, what is that leopard's strongest sense? And I would say probably their hearing coupled with their eyesight. It's very difficult to say, and their sense of smell is also excellent. I'd say leopard in general, all their senses are very, very acute. But if you watch, I think they rely a lot on their hearing and their smell and their eyes. I'd say they're probably all equal. You can see how the ears are moving constantly, like a radar dish looking for sound. Good morning, Sammy in Texas. Sammy would like to know, how far does a leopard walk in a day? So they are capable of doing up to about 20 kilometers in a day, but on average, I'd say per night, 5 to 6 kilometers. But they do tend to be, most cats are quite busy, and they'll generally sleep for about 16 hours to 18 hours of the day. So we were quite fortunate. We did have him dozing early on, but since then he's been quite active, which is a real treat. Okay, where you're off to now? Oh, it looks like he's... Oh, it looks like he's... And there we go. And he's done the walk by. I think he might be hitting... Oh dear. He is. Is he? Is he? Yay, he's not. He hasn't turned up around north, which is an incredibly bad signal area for us. So, Janet has a version that often when we watch some of the younger animals, their tail betrays in the hunting. But with this male, he did not move his tail an inch. So, guys, it's very likely I'm going to lose signal shortly while I go through this dip. So while we do that, we're going to go see Jamie. And so again, for the second time this morning, from some spots to some stripes.
It seems as though this morning Andrew and myself just cannot seem to escape herds of zebra. Every road we go down, every corner we turn, there seem to be more of them wandering about, which is wonderful for us. We went through a bit of a patch where we hardly ever saw them. It's nice to see that with the green grass and with a bit of rain that we've had, they've actually moved back into this area. The stallion is off on the left there, hiding behind some trees. He's a nice, handsome gentleman. We saw him a bit earlier. The rest of them are... sorry, turn that down. The rest of them are standing off to the right here. And actually, I said that was a stallion, but this looks like a bachelor herd again to me. These all look like males. Just judging by the thin stripe between and underneath their tail. And that's generally the arrangement that you see with... Oh, there's another one. I didn't even see that one. Hold on, Andrew. You can see how well that camouflage works. It's always surprising to me. Also another male, by the looks of things. And that's generally the arrangement you see with zebra. It's either a breeding herd with a dominant stallion, or you get these bachelor groups that move through an area. And essentially what they're doing is they're associating together for company, and also to train themselves up, practice sparring with each other, in order to be able to eventually one day compete for a herd of their own. It's nice to see such a big bachelor group. There's 5 of them that we've seen. Just to let you know my plans, I've stopped at these zebra. I was on my way towards Arathusa, but I heard hyenas calling, and I realized that I wouldn't mind stopping in at the den and just getting an update from that side, finding out what happened yesterday. When we popped by yesterday evening, it was only June out and about.
Just moving out of that Ingwe.
Look at them all moving together. You can see how they disappear into one big group.
Across over the junction, Nyala Road, Central, to the east. I'm leaving Texas with Brent and Locke. Where are you?
Oh, that incredible sighting that Scott had yesterday, and love 3 dogs. You're saying you have a brand new respect for zebra. having seen them chase the entire, or push back the entire Investec wild dog pack yesterday. And absolutely, I always say that zebra are quite surprising in terms of their defensive maneuvers. I've seen zebra chase cheetah before, and I've seen them put up very brave attempts to try and chase hyena off a foal that one of them had managed to get hold of. They are incredibly courageous when they need to be. I've also been chased by a zebra myself, personally, and that was largely due to my puppy trying to investigate them and then deciding to run away through my legs, thus bringing the zebra into very close proximity with me. So they can be aggressive to each other and to various predators, and they're powerful animals. And those of you who've encountered the bite or kick of a domestic horse will know exactly what I mean. And these guys are particularly well adapted. They are not without defensive structures. Luckily, we've got this nice view of the zebra's backside because Brian wants me to explain the difference between a male and a female zebra. And Brian, what I was always taught was that the males wear G-strings and that they therefore have a thin stripe between the cheeks of their bottoms. Underneath the tail, that stripe, that black stripe down the middle. Oh, come on, boy. Come back out. That black stripe between the middle is very, very thin. In females, it's a much thicker stripe. It's essentially a finger's width versus 3 fingers width. And biologically, it's because the black stripe on the females is actually part of their external reproductive organs. I'm going to try and see if I've got a picture in this book. I haven't got all of my books with me just because it has been a bit rainy and I didn't want to carry my book around, or too many books around, in case they got slightly damp. I don't have a nice picture in this particular book. But essentially, when I find a nice example of a female, I'll also be able to show you, Brian. It's a little bit tricky with just the males. You need to find a breeding herd of zebra to show you. Let's see if we can get another visual of them around the corner. Difficult to tell the difference between male and female zebra if you're not used to looking at them, or if they're not making it obvious. They've disappeared off. Oh yes, the other update that I had was to update you on the progress of the search for the wild dogs. I went up towards Cheetah Cutline and Buffalo Cutline. Yesterday we had an incredible sighting with Scott, with the wild dog Investec pack running around. And sacrosanct, you were wondering if the wild dogs made a kill yesterday afternoon on drive, and they did. And what was amazing about that was that it was actually the pups that made the kill. The adults were running ahead, and as far as I can understand, the pups actually flushed a daker, to the best of my knowledge, that they then managed to catch and kill. It was either a daker or a steenbok. It was never fully discovered what it was. You know how quickly wild dogs can consume a kill. It becomes really tricky to actually see exactly what it is they've killed. So it was either a daker or a steenbok. But fascinating to realize that the pups are already not only just demonstrating that hunting instinct, but actually acting successfully on it. And I've been out and I've tracked them a little bit. Now, yesterday there was one pup that was hanging behind the rest of the group, trying to nibble on the head of the antelope that they'd killed. And he got a little bit distracted and a bit separated from the rest of the group. It looks as though, just looking at the tracks, it's always difficult to tell, but just looking at the tracks, it looks as though the rest of the pack came back for the pup and then crossed north from Cheetah Cutline into Buffelshoek. That was the last tracks I had for them. I've checked really carefully around Buffelshoek Dam just to make sure that I haven't missed them. And every morning I come down this road, and every morning this impala herd is there. This is their favorite place to come and sleep. And they're definitely having a late start to the morning. There's still a couple of them lying down. A lot of them have moved around. Isn't that fascinating that they've chosen a sleeping spot right next to the hyena den? That just goes to show. I'm going to move forward a bit. I just wanted to see what these lambs decide to do since they're all dashing. Morning, little ones. We're about 50 meters away from the active hyena den. And this impala herd has been here every single time that I've come through. This is their place. This is their spot for the moment. And it just goes to show how comfortable they feel around them, which I'm quite surprised by, if I'm completely honest, but maybe it's better the hyena you see than the hyena you don't. Look how big you guys are getting. Nibbling away. And while we make our way towards the hyena den, Shell, you were wondering if I've checked any of the old hyena dens, because apparently you saw a pregnant female on December 22nd, which presumably is not one. I'm sure you've double checked. I know how much time and effort you have put into IDing our hyenas, and we do thank you for that. You're wondering because you saw a pregnant female and obviously you haven't seen her at the active den. If I've checked the other ones, I went and checked Gallagher's shortcut den yesterday, but I will pay a little bit of more interest towards the filament cutline and Rebecca dens. I have been checking for tracks though, and I have to be honest, I haven't seen any tracks going onto the regular pathways of the dens that they use. But that doesn't mean that there isn't another active den somewhere, and in fact it could well be. We know of about 5 regularly used den sites. The hyenas have plenty of options. These impala are wandering straight towards the hyena den. Oh, while you've been with me, Brent's been doing some serious off-roading, as only Brent can do, and he's managed to relocate Tingana. So I'm going to send you back over to him for now, and I'm going to make my way across to the hyena den.
So we found him again. He's gone into a creek bed or a drainage system. So we're about 40 meters from him. Unfortunately, we can't get any closer. And he's lying down there. If we went down there, unfortunately, being right at the bottom of this sort of stream bed, we would have no signal. So we're sitting up on top. It's very thick. And I'm hoping if he does move again, he moves out of that area towards an area that's more accessible for us. Warm welcome to Betty from a very cold part of the world, Canada, or Ontario to be specific. Betty would like to know, are the trackers on the front of the vehicle in any danger? Have they ever been attacked? Betty, the only time I know of a tracker becoming seriously injured was quite a long time ago, and it happened in the southern Sabi Sands, and it was more one of those fluke accidents. The lions chased a giraffe through the bush and it fell on the tracker. But generally they are very safe where they are, and as you can see, the leopards and lions tend to ignore them. Oh, he's on the move again. He's heading further up the drainage system. So So we're going to lose visual for a little bit. I'm hoping he decides to climb out towards us. But if he continues on this direction, we will probably lose signal, but I will stay with him. He should come out. There he is. And to the right of that gardenia. You got him there, Tevs? There we go. Oh, flat cat. I'm going to try get in there, but I might lose signal because it looks like he's gone completely flat, but I'm going to have to move quite a bit back around. If we do lose picture, I do apologize. It might come back when we're not moving, but it is a very steep little system there that we've got to get into. Okay, so while we try get into this drainage system, let's go see what Jamie's up to. She's arriving at, I know, one of our viewers' favorite spots.
Oh, we're nearly there at the hyena den, and I definitely see some spotty action. Looks like some cubs playing. How exciting. Let's go find out what's happened overnight, what these hyenas have been up to. Good morning. Hello, everybody.
Tingana lying up in Chicago, just to the north of Central.
I'm just going to turn the game drive channel down, and while I do, I'm just going to tell you a funny little story about the dangers of radio mics. Brent did broadcast a little bit of his conversation with the viewers over the game drive channel, so the Northern Sabi Sands did hear a little bit of that Tingana sighting as presented by Brent. We've all done it. It does happen. But it was highly entertaining for Andrew and myself to listen to. We got an idea of what it was you were all watching while you were with Brent. And these two are having a wonderful game. This is purely playful. Not sure about the hyena on the left. The little one is definitely June. Ooh, ooh. It's getting too much. It's getting too much. You can hear June. Hey, look at that. That was interesting. Oh, that was very brave, November. Coming to the rescue before dashing away. Sometimes the games do get a little bit rough, and one hyena cub has to cry mercy. That was so interesting, the way that November barreled in there. Brave for a second before realizing it might be a bit much. That one, the oldest cub there, showing quite a bit of dominance behavior. November's developing such a character. Oh, I love spending a bit of time at... It is Corky. Is that Corky playing? No, it's not. So it was the one that was in the den site that is Corky. Probably suckling her cubs just out of view. They are the most fascinating animals to come and watch. And try as we might, we will never fully understand their dynamics or what's going on. People who have studied them for 30 years do not understand exactly what goes on at a hyena den. So they are always fascinating to watch. I think that's probably one of my favorite aspects about them. And as a fairly long-lived animal, I know that we had a question about exactly how long they live. Oh, that's quite smelly. I just got the wind just changed direction. Oh, this den is starting to Stink. Sorry, I'm distracted by the Cubs playing. So Ross Craig, I haven't heard your name before. I'm not sure if you're a new viewer or just answering a question or asking a question for the first time. You wanted to know exactly how long it is that spotted hyenas live. And they're actually fairly long-lived. It depends on whether or not they are females or males. And they can live up to, the oldest hyena I've ever encountered in the wild was 13, but they can live up to 16 or even older if they're fortunate. As far as I know, the females have a slightly longer lifespan, but that again depends on whether they are high-ranking or low-ranking within the clan. It's one of those complicated systems. And also bear in mind, of course, that different animals in different areas will have different lifespans. So certain habitats are a bit harsher on the hyenas themselves. I'm going to go forward a little bit so we can... It's always difficult to know where to position yourself at this den because they change direction regularly. Oh my goodness, it's smelly. We do have a wide range of different ages at this den, including some brand new cubs. This is November, so November's about 2 months old. And CBS Jonathan, oh, good morning. Where did you come from? I think that's one of, who is that? I think that's one of the twins. Let's just come in. Still, it gets very difficult because their sizes start to equal out. Look at that. But that's very submissive behavior. That's a submissive grin, if I ever saw one. And then it's rolling over straight away to allow for gentle sniffing. Typical hyena greeting. Even November's coming up to say hello. Tentatively. Very tentatively. It's stretched out, like the more I stretch myself outwards, the better I can move backwards quickly. I was in the middle of answering whether we've seen the brand new cubs, which is a question that's come through. For those of you joining us for the first time, we do have 2 brand new tiny little cubs that have been showing themselves every now and again. They've been seen about 2 days ago with Scott. That was the last time I think that we've seen them. But there's a very good chance they could come out this morning. But this is just so... this entire greeting is so fascinating. Look at the excitement in November's body language. Aww. That looks like a very happy hyena lying there, but it could just be a very submissive hyena. And you cannot mistake that for anything but affection between cousins. Oopsie daisy, we've got a bit too rough and tumble. Ouch. Oh, thorn tree. Thorn tree. Tangled up. Oh, you're so snarly today. Good morning. I'm coming up to say hello. I'm not sure who the largest one is. I'm uncertain. A couple of notches in its left ear. I initially thought Bella, but it's a little bit too big. I need to see the right side. It's very difficult for us when we're sitting at hyena dens looking at the individuals in the flesh and keeping eyes in the back of our heads. It's quite tricky to immediately identify them. Oh. Oh. Got too close to Corky there. Disturbed her. we've got a beautiful setup at this particular den, a real family scene, and I feel as though this particular clan has done incredibly well, which is why we get individuals like this coming back across to visit. And Virginia, you were wondering if hyenas always den in termite mounds. And the answer is, for spotted hyenas, I've never seen them den anywhere else, but that doesn't mean that they haven't in the past utilized things like rock crevices, although that's generally more brown hyena. So the other species of hyena that we get, anal pasting, making sure to add to this incredible scent that permeates this particular den site. And I'm going to come and have a sniff. And that scent carries so much information that we, of course, can't interpret, but for them is like a social media update. You can think of hyena anal paste as a Twitter status update or Facebook or whatever particular social media network you prefer, carrying all kinds of information. Relationship status, gender. Sometimes people suspect even mood can be carried in that anal paste scent. I've been distracted by something behind us. And what's wonderful about these shots is you get an idea of exactly how central we are in this clan and how comfortable they are with us. On the den entrance to the right, that I'm pretty sure is Madam. Just sitting watching November, who I've said has been, somebody getting close to Corky again, being met with bared teeth. Always defensive, or a little bit defensive around her cubs, except where the matriarch is concerned, of course. And as soon as something happens, along comes November to investigate. And Ellen, you were wondering if perhaps November is a female. She does seem to get into all kinds of things, always around at the greeting ceremony, always poking her nose into any kind of skirmish or disagreement, and very, very playful, and was calling, it's not unheard of, but was calling at quite a young age. It's always fascinating to watch. She's also very bold. Ellen, I think so, but I wouldn't guarantee it. I suspect that she is, just by watching her behavior. But the thing about hyena cubs is that you've got to be so careful about making these assumptions. Yes, the female cubs are bolder, but at the same time, cubs don't automatically necessarily know their place within the clan. They're treated with kid gloves, so to speak, in their initial stages, until they're taught, as they get older, exactly where they belong in terms of hierarchy. So it could be a precocious male that will eventually be taught its place. I suspect, though, that we're looking at a little female. I also suspect that November's mom, Pretty, is a high-ranking female, and I think that's a view that's shared by most of you guys who've been watching along with me as well. The fact that she was involved in that discipline fight that occurred a week or so ago. And I mean, that behavior is very precocious, I think is probably the best way to put it. Incredibly bold. But then also, at 3 months old, it's also fairly normal behavior for a cub. They get incredibly curious at this age. We'll start to see it with the December twins as well. Lying off to the right there is the matriarch of the clan, suckling her cubs, at least I'm fairly certain it is. November having a jolly good sniff around her, which in itself is a brave move. Although I've noticed that the matriarch is exceptionally tolerant of November's presence. Whether or not that's because she is related to November and Pretty, the mother, or whether it's just because she's tolerant in general towards youthful cubs, having experienced their shenanigans plenty of times. This clan has done very, very well in terms of producing successful offspring that survive to adulthood. And Gretchen, I agree. I've said before, I've got a bit of a soft spot for November. That particular cub has been so entertaining. The star of Big Cat Week last year, or one of the stars of Big Cat Week last year. Definitely highly entertaining to watch. There's nothing like seeing a very tiny hyena cub contact call. Who is that? I'm not entirely sure. And Ross Craig, while we're watching November munch on the sticks around her, you were wondering if hyenas eat anything apart from meat. And mostly their diet is carnivore based. The cubs are at the moment teething and exploring their world with their teeth, so they're not really eating the sticks around them. I've seen them eat grass, much like, are you climbing now? Are you going to climb into that tree? That's how hyena cubs get stuck. I've rescued one before like that, with its foot stuck in the fork of a tree like that. So yes, for the most part, I'll tell you that story in a moment, but for the most part they are predominantly carnivorous. They will eat grass when they have upset stomachs, just like any other carnivore. The cubs chew on, oh yeah, you got a little bit too much, little one. That was definitely coming. Discipline. Gotta have discipline in a hyena, at a hyena den. Can't have toddlers running rampant. They are, though, opportunists, so if there is some kind of type of fruit, I wouldn't put it past them to have a nibble at it. They are famous for raiding dustbins of camps, which is why camps generally, it's very good practice to make sure, not just for hyenas, but for honey badgers and baboons and so on, so that they don't learn to associate camps with food. That's why it's good practice to have good secure dustbins to prevent them from getting into rubbish. They also, on occasion, chew on tires. That is not really for eating. It's more out of curiosity, but that being said, I have seen them chew and swallow. I have had them eat my oil caps that sit, the little round caps that sit in the center of my tires. I had one eat that once, despite my best efforts otherwise. It happened in 2 seconds when my back is turned. And I would say I've had some fairly interesting adventures. I have told the hyena cub story before, but just to let new viewers know, we were called in to say that a hyena cub had been caught in a snare. So we rushed out to the den site, and we actually found that it was a cub that had climbed into a very similar setup to what we just saw November calling in, and obviously jumped up and then hooked its paw in the fork of a branch. And because it was hanging, it was dangling, it couldn't get any momentum to lift its paw out of that fork, and was completely stuck, and the paw was starting to swell. So what we did was we just chased Mom away, who was there and very concerned. And she stayed at about 40 meters growling at us, but there wasn't much that she could do, and we couldn't really leave the cub to lose its paw. And then we wrapped a jacket around its head, because you really don't want to lose a finger to that, and we lifted it out of the tree. And it was an interesting moment. It's one of those moments where you question your involvement, but it was impossible to really sit by and watch the cub dangling from a tree when we could actually help it. It was also a very different system to this Kruger system. It was a closed system. In other words, it is a fenced area. Interestingly, James Richards has said that November, first of all, has stolen his heart, although November has now retreated in a sulk into the den somewhere after being nipped by the matriarch in an act of discipline. And James, you say that you're pretty sure that you saw the pinched tip to November's genitals, and you were going to go and double check for us in your screenshots. Thank you, I appreciate it. I find it very tricky. Somebody coming behind us. No, this is a look up on that hyena's face. I personally find it tricky with young cubs to tell, because the females, although the pinched tip is typical of males, for females that haven't yet bred, that haven't mated, and that haven't reached sexual maturity, they can sometimes take on the look of a male genitalia. And for new viewers who are confused by what on earth we're talking about, if you are unfamiliar with spotted hyenas, they have one of the most unique reproductive setups of any animal. And indeed, that carries over into their social structure. So the females are bigger, stronger than the males, which is very unusual in the mammal kingdom. It's usually the other way around. The females are also pumped full of testosterone and androgen, which has given them eventually, over thousands of years, they've actually evolved an extended clitoris that's fused with their vaginal tract. So essentially they have a false penis. And it looks very much like a male's penis, and it's almost impossible to tell unless you really get a closer look. That's why the den site is the best place to try and judge an animal's sex if you haven't seen it properly. So the females are bigger, but you can always get young females and older males that might be roughly the same size. And with subadults and cubs, it is very, very tricky. We'll have to wait and see with November in terms of aging her, or him, it. It's not going to be an easy answer. It's one we'll just have to wait for and work for. Looks like June wandering through. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering what has happened with Brent and Tingana, and I believe that he would like to tell you himself, so let's pop over there.
So, welcome back, everyone. With Tebs and I sitting right on the edge, it's probably about 5 or 6 meters down to the bottom of this creek bed. We last had a very brief visual of Tingana in and around there. He could have crossed into this area, which is between two big drainage systems like this. He could be just lying down right there. Unfortunately, even with my tenacious off-roading, we can't get down there. So hopefully he moves out of that area during the day. I think a good place to look on the sunset safari will be around the Buffelshoek waterhole, or lack of waterhole. And we're going to send you back to Jamie. We're going to go head out, see what else we can find. Hopefully there's some ellies or giraffe or some other fantastic creature that's about. But we'll be back with you a little later.
It seems as though Brent has pulled, or Tingana has pulled a sneaky maneuver on Brent. I'm just watching this matriarch really closely. So for new viewers, she is the mother of our newest, to the best of our knowledge, our newest set of cubs at this den site. So we're always waiting to see if they decide to make a little bit of an appearance. It was June that was coming through, so playtime is happening on the other side of the den. Ooh. Ouch. Gripped by the neck. Now, one thing that I've learned from observing the behavior at the den, which I actually never knew, is the fact that some of the females urinate at the entrance to the den, which is what's also passing across this particular odor to Andrew and myself. Andrew's scrunching up his nose. It is rather smelly. And Richard, also goes by the username of Sir Richard. Well, Sir Richard, you were wondering about hyena urine and the scent that it carries. You were wondering if maybe I could describe it to you. Let me just try and think of the best description. Certainly ammonia is fairly high up. Now, hyenas are... Yes, you deserve that. You were getting a little bit too rough. So hyenas are well adapted. They, as you know, can also inhabit desert areas, which means that they're adapted to go extended periods without water. It means that their kidneys can work extra hard at making sure their urine is as concentrated as possible. And the same would apply during this drought, which means it carries very high levels of ammonia, starts to smell a bit like uncleaned public lavatories, I suppose, is the best way of describing it. Also with a side of wet dog. There's a very musky smell to it. It's not like the leopard urine that supposedly smells like fresh popcorn to everybody in the world except me. I'm not sure what is wrong with my sense of smell. Everybody says it does. Personally, to me, I can't smell it. It smells like urine to me. But apparently it smells like popcorn. I will have to take everybody else's word for it because I seem to be the exception to that rule. I know that Brent did touch upon it. What else would we describe this scent as? The problem is it also carries with it the personal scent of the hyenas and the anal paste scent. That's quite funny. So I spoke about the smell of the hyena den, and then of course we saw that cub anal pasting, and I said it was like a social media update. Susan, you suggested maybe we should call it tweeting instead of anal pasting. You can decide which way round that works. Next time I see the anal pasting, I'm going to call it tweeting and confuse a whole load of people. I like that though. And Tina, who's watching in Houston, you've suggested that the visitor to the den, you've suggested that this could be Napandula, as named by Peter Pretorius. He was born last year. Oh no, sorry, not last year. We're in a different year now. In 2014. Sorry, I haven't quite entered into 2016 yet. Takes me a while. I barely remember what day of the week it is or what month we're in. And Tina, you mentioned that you saw a 7 on that little hyena. Unfortunately, it appears to have disappeared. I'm not sure where it went off to. We'll have to double-check screenshots when we get back. I personally couldn't tell you whether or not it is a hyena that's fairly unfamiliar with me. Tina, are you talking about this individual, the larger individual? And is the 7 on the left or the right? I can't remember. I have been trying to catch up with some of the sub-adults that I'm unfamiliar with. You said it was on the right side, apparently. I'll keep an eye out for that. Wandering off on a secret hyena mission for the day. As the cubs start to get older, they start to leave the den site and go wandering off on their own. And Jerry, who's watching in Australia, you'd like to know if the cubs will stay with the clan once they're grown up or if they disperse. For the most part, especially the females, will stay within the clan itself, and sometimes some of the males do as well. They've just discovered that it's a nice, safe place for them to be. It takes them quite a while before they decide to go nomadic. And also the fact that not all of the females in hyena clans are related. So you've got different family lines, which means that even if a male is born into a clan, it still means that he could mate with a female that is not related to him. So sometimes they stick around, but usually it's the males that go off and they go nomadic, and they go wandering around looking for mating opportunities. Guinea fowl. I'm surprised they haven't spotted anything. And just to go back to finish off Ginny's question, and Ginny, you were saying about cubs leaving. What does occasionally happen, and I've spoken before about coups, so exactly what I'm saying, like a takeover that might happen within the hyena clan, where subordinate hyenas then start to become more numerous than the dominant ones and then look towards usurping their position in the clan. And sometimes what that leads to is almost like a schism in the hyena clan itself, and the females wander off. Now, I'm giving you information that has been observed, behavior patterns that have been observed. That being said, hyena clans and the way that they function in their social system, there's still so little that's actually really truly understood. So this is what we know now. We may discover something very different in the next 50 years of research into the way they operate. That's what I love about being here, is the fact that we may never know exactly how it is they're operating. Those guinea fowl, I think, have ducked over the top. They don't seem to have been bothered by the hyena. Corky is still fast asleep in the entrance to the left. No sign of her December cubs. I agree, Liz. Liz is watching in Wisconsin and really enjoys this den setup. I'm trying to remember how VM described it. He basically described it as moving up in the world, like moving to a bigger house or a nicer area. I can't remember exactly the words he used, but VM has a way with phrasing things that is absolutely hilarious on occasion. But I love the setup. The tambuti trees, it's all sort of hidden like it's in a kind of a grove or a thicket. It means that the hyenas have plenty of personal space, and we can sit and watch them in really what is truly quite an attractive setting, as Andrew is showing you. And what's even better for us about this particular den site is on sunny days, not that we've had one recently, but on the sunny days, there will be patches of shade for the poor driver and cameraman sitting in the bright sunlight. Although generally we don't spend the hottest period of the day around here. All has gone quiet, and really all I wanted to do was pop into the den site for an update to see what these guys are up to. Seems as though playtime is over. It's now time for the morning nap period. As you can see, all sleepy. Now, if these hyenas were listening to the questions that were coming through, they would very kindly give us a nice yawn or something along those lines. Sometimes those moments happen, sometimes they don't. Either way, Mike, you've said that you've noticed that hyena have very white teeth, and you were wondering if I could explain that. Well, as with any predator, the best way to age hyena, or lions, or leopards, or wild dog, is to have a look at the state of their teeth. So that one hyena that we saw in the fight a week or so ago, or 10 days or so ago, had very yellow, quite old-looking teeth. It was actually how I said, or how I came to the conclusion that it was quite an aged female. That being said, I think you're right, Mike. I think they seem to have whiter teeth for a longer period of time. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that's due to the fact that they chomp on as many bones as they do. Those of you who own domestic dogs will know that if you give them nice bones to chew on. Obviously not cooked chicken bones or something along those lines that could cause them harm. But raw bones give a really nice tooth cleaning effect to the mouth, as well as being entertaining for them. And I guess hyenas, with their dominant diet of bones that they can crunch, probably help to clear away the tartar on their teeth. What is that? I can hear squeaking sounds. The hyena's heard it too. Corky at least lifted up her head, although she's now facing the wall of sand and going back to sleep. So whatever it was hasn't concerned them terribly. But since they've all gone back to sleep, let's go and investigate. It almost sounded like zebra alarm calling, but it was so brief that I'm not entirely sure exactly what it was. And as our regular viewers know, with my earpiece in the right ear, I'm actually slightly deaf in my left ear. Maybe not deaf, maybe just doesn't hear nearly as well as the right. Watching in Memphis, Tennessee, and you were wondering if I could tell you whether or not the hyenas that visited Tingana were from this clan. Leanne, my guess absolutely is that they were. The reason I say that is because of the proximity to the den. So where you were, oh sorry Andrew, I didn't even see you were looking at the guinea fowl.
They got away.
Oh, there they go. The guinea fowl that escaped the hyena clutches. Sorry, Leanne, I'll be with you in a moment. Guinea fowl I have found highly amusing recently, but what we have noticed, we've been waiting for this moment, is that they seem to be pairing up into breeding couples. It's been a lot later this year than I've ever seen it before in the bush. I think it was guinea fowl that we're calling, or Franklin as well. Yes, so they've been pairing up. They pair up every breeding season into a male-female couple. But for this, probably because of the drought, it was incredibly late this year. Later than I've ever known it. So it's nice to see it finally happening. Wandering off in front of us. So they're still wandering in their groups, but when they split off around an obstacle or something like that, then you see them in their pairs, in their mated pairs together. Before I got distracted by guinea fowl, Leanne, you were asking about whether or not they're from the same clan. So I said yes, because of the proximity. Where you were watching Tingana and the hyenas coming to investigate him is about, I would say, kilometer at the most, so half a mile away from where we are now. That's very close, and to the best of our knowledge, this clan's territory extends all the way towards Torchwood, up into a little part of Buffelshoek, and then to the Triple M, or the western boundary of Djuma. And that's where their boundary lies with the Arathusa Simbabili clan. Difficult to say exactly, and obviously territorial boundaries are permeable, but I would say that almost certainly it would be hyenas, particularly in this core center, since they always den in this particular area. This is the core part of their home range and their territory. So I think it's unlikely that an older hyena and a sub-adult would come wandering through from a different clan. Not impossible, but unlikely. Particularly so far into the territory of another clan. I would say it's almost certain. The individual that Andrew and myself saw on Gowrie Lane, there's a slight likelihood more that it could be a stranger to the clan, but even then, I have to be honest, I don't think so. I think it's part of that clan as well. The fact that it ran straight north into our clan's territory suggests to me it's also part of this clan. Just bear in mind that any kind of interpretation that I give you on the hyenas and their behavior, unless I tell you it's absolute fact, I could be wrong. I'm giving you my best interpretation of the circumstances and what I'm seeing and what I've observed. But nobody really knows, if I'm completely honest, exactly what happens within hyena dynamics. We know that hyena dens, I can actually still smell that particular one, really is quite pungent, more pungent than I've ever encountered before. We know that when hyena dens start to become parasite-ridden, obviously with the cubs urinating, defecating in the tunnels, the adults apparently urinating around the entrance, you can imagine that brings parasites. So what that means is that with hyenas, they move their cubs on a fairly regular basis. But obviously with the tiny little ones, one has to wonder about how they move them. And Christopher, you were wondering whether or not the cubs will walk with the females or whether they will be carried. Obviously, it is to do with their ages. I think it was the zebra that we heard, because they're here, and I think it's that stallion group. Oh, they're alarm calling at the hyena. That's what's happening. There's that hyena there. They're just getting a bit of a yip to let it know that its presence wouldn't be tolerated. That's the old individual that we saw at the den, I think. They're the zebra stallions. Interesting. You can see them all keeping a very close eye on it. Although hyenas in this particular area are primarily scavengers. I think it just... Have you got a view there? No. I think it dashed off to the left. I'm not sure exactly where. Somewhere behind the bushes. The zebra are still keeping quite a close eye on him. I was in mid-train of thought. What was I about to say? Oh yes, although the hyenas are primarily scavengers, we suspect, not know, but suspect that they have been hunting, particularly recently, since there haven't been lions on Djuma itself, although they have been right around the boundaries. So I just wonder whether they haven't been hunting zebra. The foals are all out and about. I have seen hyenas kill zebra before, and this clan would be more than capable of taking down a foal. It might have been why they were on high alert, even with just one individual. One individual wouldn't try and hunt these zebra alone. As we saw with the wild dogs, they are more than capable of providing an aggressive and defensive response. But I think they're feeling a little bit nervous and a bit shaky with that foal around. What was I about to say? Oh, I was busy answering the question about moving hyena cubs. Now, it's interesting to watch. When we first found Corky and the December twins, they were at Philemon's Cutline Den, and she was clearly making every effort to move them. What she would do is she would pick up one twin, carry it, because when they're so tiny like that, I think they do have to be carried. I can't imagine that it's terribly safe for them to go wobbling through the bush, particularly since hyenas generally move at night. You can imagine how difficult it would be for the mother to keep wobbly little ones safe. I imagine she'd have to carry them. So she would try and carry the one, and then the other twin would start to squeal in a panic that it was being left by mom and sibling. So she'd drop the one cub and go running back to the den, and then grab the other one, and then as soon as she grabbed the other one, the one twin would have gone back into the den. It was utter chaos to watch. And we knew she was trying to move them, and then one day she just turned up at the Gallagher shortcut there. She obviously moved them overnight. So yes, they do carry them when they're young, and then once they reach roughly about November's age, and you've seen how sturdy November is on her feet compared to while we were watching her when she first made an appearance, he, she, it. see how much more stable she is. I think that at this age, she should be capable of walking to a new den site, depending on how far away it is. Now, they've moved recently to that Mbubu Road den, but that movement was a very short one. I think the distance covered was probably only about 150 meters. It'll be interesting to see, because now there's 5 cubs under 3 months old there. It will be interesting to see if the increased parasite load might cause them to move a little bit faster. Aspect of it, I mentioned to our viewers that I was going to go and check some of the older hyena dens, and I have been past some of them, and they definitely show signs of habitation, just like the one that we saw this morning. And Gubawala, watching on YouTube, great to hear from you again. You were wondering if warthogs or warties ever make their way into hyena dens if the hyenas are not in residence. And yes, it's entirely possible that we do. This morning we saw and suspect that an aardvark has moved back into that old hyena den, so they could well be there. But it's more than possible that warthogs could decide to inhabit a hyena den once they've exited residence. That being said, I would imagine, I don't know, but I would suggest that there's quite an extended time period between hyenas leaving and warthogs moving in, just because, quite frankly, of the smell. Hello, you're in a terrible place. Okay, sorry, buddy. Slamming on brakes in a very uncomfortable slope for this little hinged tortoise. It's okay. You could cross the road. I love tortoises. I've got such a soft spot for the way that they move. He looks like he's gulping in fear. It's all right. I was not going to run over you, I promise. No, but that doesn't mean come under the car, though. That's not quite what I was suggesting. Ah. Stop. Stop.
Naughty Tooty.
Oh dear. Bye. Well, we're going to be here a while. This is pretty funny. Evie, who's watching in Long Island, just to finish off with our hyena sighting, since Andrew and myself will not be going anywhere anytime soon. You were saying that before you started watching Safari Live, you had no interest in hyena, and now they are your favorite. For me personally, they're my favorite predator because they've got such interesting... It's fun. Going to decide to come out from underneath the vehicle. So yes, Evie, I love them. I find them fascinating. Of course, as with every animal out here, they have a darker aspect to their nature. Just like they're wild. They aren't governed by the same rules that we are, and they react differently in different situations, just as they would for any predator. Now, I don't want to touch this tortoise because we're in the middle of a drought, and what happens when you do that is they sometimes panic and release the water that they have stored in their bursa. I know regular viewers are familiar with that idea, and so we might have to wait for an extended period of time before he can drive away. So in the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Brent and see if my tortoise decides to move.
So we are now right down in the sort of western area of the Djuma Private Game Reserve, taking a little gander. A crew that does like this area, and so does Shadow. So it doesn't look like anyone's driven here yet this morning. Having a quick look for tracks. And for me, just a general catch up. I haven't managed to get too far around Djuma yet since I've been back. I mean, first morning, incredibly exciting. Off the bat with the wild dogs running around hunting, and obviously from the video posted yesterday, something quite unusual happened after drive. So we'd been following the wild dogs for the majority of the sunrise safari, and we had some fantastic views. And then unfortunately the rain got too hard for the equipment, so we had to head back towards camp. And I know Laura and lots of others were wondering if I go into more detail about our little accident. Well, let me just start at the beginning. Firstly, it started off with VM telling Scott and myself about the spitting cobra that was in the kitchen during the night. It turned out not to be there, but so when we got back from drive, we covered up the vehicles to make sure that we couldn't get any more damp than they already were, and asked VM, because it was still raining quite hard, if he would kindly take me across to my house, which is a camp probably about 1 kilometer from the DRC, the main camp where most people stay. And we were going to go and get the snake catching stick and go see if we could find that spitting cobra in the kitchen. And we probably drove 15 meters from the entrance gate to the Juma research camp, and I smell something. Well, there could be some ellies around, and we were discussing actually the wild dogs we had seen that morning. And I was sitting on the passenger side, which is on the left-hand side of the vehicle, opposite to North America and quite a lot of places. Just sitting, and my head was facing forward. We were looking forward. It was quite misty and rainy, so you couldn't really see around us. And we came around a bush, and what happened was this sort of a bang, like a car crash, right here against my head, and the window shattered onto me. And then instinctively, I think I turned like this, and the Impala got stuck sort of between the dashboard, with its back and head against the windscreen and its legs facing me. And I actually remember thinking as it came through, nyala, and it started kicking. So I did this, and I got a few kicks around the back of my head, also in my ribs here, and the bottom of my thigh. I've actually got an nyala hoof print, sort of, and a scrape all the way across the back of my leg here. And I think I remember shouting to VM, and then I tried to open the door, but from the impact of the nyala hitting there, the door wouldn't open. So I shouted to VM to open his door, but I couldn't climb out because the nyala was on top of me. So I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I managed to sort of grab the sort of back legs that were really, really hitting my legs here. And then I just managed to sort of twist it, and VM had opened the door, got out, and realized I couldn't get out, so he came back and he pushed the nyala's head, and eventually VM said it looked like I was sitting with a big dog on my lap. So I had the nyala on my lap like this, and I was holding it like this, and this is where I got all the slight bruising on my face. Luckily I don't bruise very, very easily, and it was head-butting me while I had it on my lap, and at the same time going, "Bleh, bleh." Obviously very stressed animal. I think there were 3 very stressed animals in the car at this stage. And then somehow managed to sort of unceremoniously dump it head first out of the car, out of the window. And then it ran off, and then we saw all the wild dogs around us only afterwards. Obviously I was quite focused on the nyala that was on top of me. I came off incredibly lucky. Firstly, it was a female. If any animal, an impala or even a young male nyala, anything with horns, I think I would be looking a lot worse than I am now. So just some bruising here. There's quite a bit of bruising here. I also think my long locks and my cap took quite a lot of the blows. So fortunately, the hooves didn't manage to or broke the skin slightly. So I've got a few small cuts in my ear and behind my head here. The majority of the damage seems to be on my legs, because it was sort of tap dancing on them for a while, and a lot of the really painful part was obviously all the shatterproof glass. It's tiny little slivers of glass went everywhere. Took good half an hour with a pair of tweezers afterwards. I will try to post some pictures of the cuts and stuff. They're obviously under my pants at the moment. But with the tweezers, taking all the little slivers of glass out. So that was quite painful. And with a lot of these things, a lot of the really painful stuff comes later. So once you sort of calm down, your adrenaline's down, sort of all the bruises and bumps you didn't really know about, the non-sort of visible, or the non-bleeding ones. So I got a really nice sore. I shouldn't laugh too much. It's quite sore ribs and lots of different bruises all over my thighs and that. I'm just really, really incredibly lucky that it wasn't more serious. Generally, when you get an animal in a car, it ends a lot worse than it did for us. And unfortunately, I think the biggest loser in this wasn't the nyala or us. It was VM's poor car. So you can have a look at the video to see what the car looks like. And we weren't filming when the nyala jumped through the window, although when I did tell Graham, he thought I was lying and said, no, this is like an early April Fool's. You've got to be lying to me. This can't be true. He wanted to know if Jamie was beating me for being away in Zimbabwe with Andrew for so long. I said that wasn't the case, but so yeah, it was definitely not something that happens every day, and we were all very lucky that no one was seriously hurt. And the video is on my Facebook page, and I will put it on Twitter again today for those of you who want to have a look, and you can see the damage to VM's car and the amount of fur that came off that nyala that is still inside VM's, like clumps of that orange fur. But as far as we know, the nyala got away from the dogs. I didn't see the dogs chase after it afterwards. I think they were just as shocked as we were. But the incredible thing was the sound, that initial sort of bang. I mean, you watch videos or you've heard those car accidents with sort of screaming bang, and it literally right next to you. It was quite a shock to the system. Fortunately, we managed to manhandle it out the window again. A little bit shaky afterwards, and then a little bit more in pain yesterday afternoon. Now, just sort of bumps and bruises everywhere, so quite lucky. Jamie had a good laugh at me trying to speak to my mother afterwards. I had a slight concussion, so garbling the words quite a bit. And Jamie got the strangest phone call of her life. As you know, yesterday was her morning off, so she was having a little lie-in, and then phoned her to ask her to bring me more clothes, because I was covered in glass and all the clothes I was wearing was in glass. So I showered at the DRC to try to get the glass out of my hair and off me, and it took her a few seconds to register what was going on. Obviously the other clothes also had quite a bit of blood and whatnot on them, but very lucky, and a good story to tell, although it is one of those that almost seems unbelievable. So there we go. For those of you wondering about nyala versus VM and Brent, there's the story. We're going to carry on now, see what else we can find. I definitely going to be staying away from nyala for a while, keeping my distance. Smiles would like to know, should I be concerned about disease from the nyala? No, I'm 100% sure. I could have got a few ticks, but I think the ticks were still firmly latched onto the nyala, and we'd get those anyway. With a lot of your antelope and your herbivore species, it's very unusual for diseases to jump across, and like carnivores were disease and parasites. Because we are omnivores, we can share quite a lot of those. We don't share a lot of parasites with herbivores or diseases with herbivores. There are certain ones, of course, mad cow disease and all that type of stuff, but those are very rare, and those generally come from herbivores that are being farmed under sort of mass. So lots of animals together in constant contact with people, you get that jump over between diseases. But with a wild animal like that, I'm 100% confident I didn't get any diseases. Here we go. Nice big herd of impala coming up. No wild dogs behind them, no leaping in any direction. on Twitter says, see, long hair does serve a purpose. Yes, I think it really did help to stop those hooves going into my scalp, which is fortunately quite hard. But she also says that VM won't be taking me home anytime soon again. He actually joked about that. He says, I'm not going anywhere in a car with you, it's too dangerous. And strange enough, my doctor, who's got some part around here, is one of my best friends and one of my fishing buddies. And when I phoned him to give him the update so he could give me a little diagnosis over the phone and over Skype, he just said, you know what, any other person in the world, I wouldn't believe it. But with you, I can't, you get yourselves into these situations. How, Leo Smith, how? That's, yep, that's what happened yesterday morning at about, just after we finished the sunrise safari. There we go, you can see nice, it's still cool morning, so quite a few of them probably are still lying down, chewing the cud, bringing up those boluses of grass and leaves to get the maximum amount of food out of them. Imperadoras. Lisa in Wisconsin says, you can't believe it. Our story coming back into DRC going, oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened to us. Imagine the other going, oh my goodness guys, can't believe what the humans did to me. I'm not sure who was more stressed at that time, the nyala or ourselves. Yeah, and sort of throwing it back out at the wild dogs, but I think the wild dogs were just as confused as VM and I were. Like, oh, where did it go? It went inside that white thing. So we're still having a quick look around this area, see if we can find any tracks of shadow or karula. Oh, yes, and I forgot. Jeannie and quite a few other people were asking about the spitting cobra. I blame everything on this cobra. The cobra managed to leave the kitchen at some point during the safari, so we're not sure where it is at the moment. I of course, was in no state to try to find it. So thankfully Scott got the goggles on and the snake stick, and we've moved all the fridges and ovens, because quite often they like to stay in the warm spots under the fridges and ovens. But yeah, emptied out that kitchen completely. The cobra had vacated. Now the reason you do find quite a lot of snakes around human habitation is, even though we think we can be quite neat and tidy, we're not. And even eating a slice of toast, you drop lots of little crumbs and whatnot on the ground, and that attracts rodents. So we always have rodents around human habitation. So where there are rodents and quite a lot of snakes' favorite prey are mice and rats. So snakes will come to try and catch the rodents. And during the winter months, they're attracted to the warmth of the fridges and the stoves. Christy in Kansas City. So do you think the nyala intended to jump in the car or not? Because I don't think so. I think it was trying to get away. I think we came out from behind a blind corner at the same time it was running, and it maybe tried to leap over the bonnet, but because of where we were moving and it was moving, it came through the window. To give you an idea, we went and had a look at the tracks afterwards. Let me just show you guys quickly how far it was between jumps. So I think even if it hadn't been trying to miss the vehicle, I think it was in mid-air, it was committed. There was no ways it could change its its direction. So to give you an idea, how's this, Tibbs? Can you see my feet?
Yeah.
Okay. So say this is the nyala track here. There we go. So all 4 tracks, bang. To there. So that's about the distance it was touching ground as it was being chased by the wild dog. So it was bang, 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 and then bang into us. So really, really interesting. I mean, certain animals, impala can do 8 meters in one single jump in terms of longitudinal distance. So it is incredible how these animals can move. So unfortunately, no tracks on Impala Road. And it's amazing if you look around us how green it is. A couple of days of overcast weather and even the tiniest amount of rain. And that sunburnt grass has already taken on a completely different hue. It's looking a little bit more healthy again. So the problem isn't now while we're getting these little bits of rain and stuff and the grass stays a little bit green. It's going to be sort of come from June onwards after the rains when the grass hasn't actually had time to grow. And where the herbivores will be having a hard time with it. Let's go across at the wonderful Jamie, who's got a visitor all the way from Europe.
One of the beautiful jewels of the bushveld, this incredible European roller. Beautiful bright blue bird sitting on the end of a branch there. And as Andrew slowly zooms in, you might notice the odd bob of the camera every now and again. And that's because Andrew has the hiccups, which has been highly entertaining to observe. Luckily, as the incredible professional cameraman that he is, he still manages to bring you these sterling images with just a minor squeaking sound from behind me every now and again. Which has been, I have to admit, one of the most entertaining moments of my morning. I'm going to try and contain myself. Every now and again his head does a little bob, much like this European roller. I'm just going to be quiet, see if Andrew still has the hiccups. Try and catch him out. Let's see if it happens again.
No, they've gone now, I think.
Oh, they're gone now. Okay. The hiccups got the stage fright. Well, there you go. We found a cure for hiccups. Try and catch them on our live safaris, and apparently they disappear on cue. Oh, thank you for that, Andrew. It was highly entertaining. Look at this beautiful roller. It's so incredible to see the bright blues and the greens and the purples of the various roller and bee-eater species. European rollers have only really just started returning over the last 2 months or so. And we did see, for those of you who missed it, we did see the return of the carmine bee-eaters just a few days ago on Drive, which I think pretty much concludes our collection of migratory birds. So for those of you who are new to the show, what we like to encourage people to do is to start a bird list, and you can get well over, potentially, you could get over 300 birds, and I know our regular viewers are well over 100 in certain cases.
Someone's on 200.
Someone's on 200, really? Wow. Now that is impressive. It's almost like a treasure hunt in its own way. Oh, maybe that's what I should have done. Lois was loving Andrew's hiccups, and maybe what I should have done is give him some water. Sorry, Andrew. All I did was just laugh at you, which isn't very sympathetic. My apologies. Perhaps I should have offered you the giant 5-litre water that I generally carry around for such emergencies. Now, he's sitting perched up on this branch, waiting for the opportunity to strike, and they are fierce predators of various cricket species, maybe flies, butterflies, even moths will fall prey to something like a European roller. And it's always fascinating to watch them. We'll open his beak there for a moment. You can see how he's turning his head, focusing that incredible vision that all birds have and are famous for. Their eyesight is better than ours for the most part. And there's also, of course, there's no point in having bright, beautiful plumage if other bird species or other individuals of your species can't see it. So they have got the full range of color vision, as far as I know. They are fascinating to watch, and we've got to take these opportunities for the moment because they will be migrating towards April. They start to vanish off back up to the north. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that migration happens a bit earlier this particular year. We've spoken before about some of the fact that the birds have been moving towards the more rain-drenched or rain-blessed areas of this country. They are moving to wherever there's insect population explosions. But definitely add it to your bird list, tick that off, and see if we can get other bird species on the list for you in the sunset safari. Now, I know that Brent has been discussing that nyala incident with you all. Of course, we're all very relieved that both him and VM are healthy and safe, if somewhat battered and bruised. And it's one of those aspects of being Brent's girlfriend, is that he seems to attract these incredibly strange and totally bizarre incidents in the bush. It's one of those things I think I'm going to have to get used to in my life, is having phone calls like that first thing in the morning. I was really confused. I know that Brent described my reaction. I had no idea what he was trying to tell me, to be honest. It didn't help that due to the slight concussion to the head, his words weren't coming out in exactly the right order, which in itself was fairly confusing, with only amusing in hindsight now that he's absolutely fine and well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful to have you on the back of the vehicle with us this morning. Thank you, Andrew, for your wonderful camera work and your highly entertaining hiccups. And thank you all for your questions and your comments that you've been feeding us through. We'll catch you this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. I'm going to send you back over to Brent for the last few moments of our Sunrise Safari. Cheers, guys.
So we're actually back at the scene of the crime now, and you can see there's glass everywhere here on the ground. So these are the little tiny little shards that actually were quite painful, taking the little pieces out of my legs. And as you can see here, there's the elephant fence behind me. You can see the wooden wall of our camp right there. So I mean, literally right outside. We drove out there, and that nyala came through this bush. I mean, right past the back of the workshops. But yeah, so we're very, very lucky. I am checking very carefully in all directions that there's no nyala about. I think I've got a phobia developing. I was rooting for Tingana this morning. But don't forget to join us for the Sunset Safari. It's been great having you with us, and see you a little later today.